She doesn't have any hip precautions, so we can rock. Good to go. No weight bearing restrictions, so we're good to go. If a person is a squat pivot, it's likely they have weakness in their lower extremities because they can't come into standing. So the way that I can ensure that she doesn't buckle further is I can come on each side of her legs, and I can now control her with my legs. So if she starts to buckle, I can just tighten up and just move her. Now, because of that, she just shifted, I'm a little too tight in the space. I might have to move my chair a smidge, make sure that we're both safe. Okay. So I'm going to have her get into a squat position. On the count of 3, turn my body and not twist my body. Wide base support and a turn. Get close to the person I'm transferring. Got myself here, so if she starts to crumble even more, I can control. Holly, I want you to look in the direction of transfer. On the count of 3, we're going to stand and come sit here. The cues are going to be dependent on what she needs. Look in the direction of transfer. On the count of 3, my hands are like this on the gate belt, not this. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Come squat and stand back. So reach back and have a seat. And I'm going to lower myself again. Okay, so that would be a squat pivot. When we're returning, we would do the same exact thing. Have to scoot to the edge and prepare the environmental line. Oh, it's a miracle. Oh, geez.
Good to go.
For the stand pivot, this person is able to come into standing. And they can tolerate weight on their legs. They can't step yet. And I want them to get into a stand position. When they come into a stand position, I want them to pause for a moment to make sure they have their balance and to allow for adequate blood flow, make sure we're not having any hypotensive episodes. So this is a beginning step for functional mobility. So again, I'm going to have her get closer to where she needs to be. She knows where we're going to go, right? So Holly, we're going to count to 3, stand up tall, hold it for a few minutes, and we're going to turn and sit. Now, she's not stepping, she's pivoting. And so we pivot like on the balls of our feet. I'm going to consider the amount of assistance she needs. Min, mod, max, right? Is she dependent? Is she contact guard? Likely not if she's doing the stand pivot. I'm going to consider if she has any precautions. If she's cabbage, she's not going to push from sitting, is she?
Mm-hmm.
She's going to put her arms across her body or hold her pillow. If she's a total hip, that is posterior, she's going to kick her leg out. We don't often use pivots with the hips because of the risk, but sometimes we're in a corner, we might have to. You know, so the general population may use this, including the CBA, who has hemopharesis or hemiplegia, or the TBI. So this person's going to pivot. Okay? We'll pivot on both of the balls of her feet. Now, if she had restrictions on one side, she could. Let's say she was partial weight bearing. She could, or she was toe touch weight bearing. We could. It makes it a little more challenging. So we would be pivoting on one side. We initially start training to the non-affected side because people are fearful anyway with mobility. And so they're going to be more fearful if you're transferring them to the hemiplegic or hemiparetic side or the surgical side, or a side that's weaker for them. So let's say it's a person who has spinal surgeries and they have more weakness on one side than another because of nerve injury as a result of some kind of compression to the spine. So we typically would start transferring to the non-affected side, keeping in mind that eventually we want to transfer to the non-affected side, to the affected side, because likely life is going to happen on both sides. So your home may be set up where you can transfer to the non-affected side, but what about you go to lunch at your sister Jill's house and her bathroom is set up where you have to transfer to your affected side? So eventually we will. So I'm going to give her the same instructions. We're going to rock 3 times, push up into standing, pause a moment, turn, feel your legs touch, reach back and sit. Now, how I position myself is going to depend on how she's doing. For example, if she's a hemi and I know her leg's going to buckle, I can position myself so that my knee can block her knee when she starts to buckle. This can be challenging if we have different leg lengths. If my knee and her knee are not at the same height. An option is we straddle that leg so I can grab it and give it stability if it starts to buckle. Okay? So since she's pivoting, I'm going to be kind of stepping like we're dancing. My foot is in between her foot. My right leg, right's my dominant side, is outside of the transfer area. So if I need to move it, I can move better. If my leg that I'm controlling with is to this side, I don't have a whole lot of, my base of support is more narrow and I have less control because now I'm in between her legs. And over by the seat, I'm limited. If things start to go south and if she starts leaning one way, it's harder for me to manage her because my base of support is narrow. This way, I have a wider base of support. And if she starts to move in a direction that I don't want her to, I'm likely going to be able to get her in the position I need her to be in for safe transfer, to sit back down or whatever it may be. Okay? So here I am, I'm in a position where I can grab, I can block if needed.
That is her affected side, correct?
So if this were her affected side, because remember we're going to try to transfer to the non-affected side when we initially start training.
So you're in between and then you're in front of her knee. Is that like you can switch between or you pick whichever one you anticipate?
Well, it would likely be the weaker side that the person would buckle on.
So you would do the knee in front of the knee, or you could start and straddle and then kind of scoot if that's needed?
I can reposition myself as needed. Yeah, so I could do the knee blocking if I go, this isn't working, and my knee's below her kneecap. Maybe she's a 6'4" guy. Mm-hmm. And so now this isn't going to work. I'm going to have to grab a hold of the knee with my, and I can use it to make the transition. Look in the direction of transfer, please. We're going to say she's left out and then it's this. I'm going to rock 3 times and push. Ready? 1, 2, 3. And just stand. Pull her knee buckle. Let me block it a little bit. All right. Now, Madame, are you ready? Mm-hmm. We're just going to turn, reach back. You're doing a good job. Have a seat. And that was a stand pivot. Just stand.
So she can shuffle her feet. I assume people who can stand.
Who can't step, typically you don't have any trouble with them. You and I can. And when we feel ourselves moving, we naturally want to shuffle or step. Mm-hmm. But the person who can't step yet, they're not ready for walking, mm-hmm. will pivot more naturally for you because they have no inclination to step. But for you and I, when we feel ourselves moving, the first thing we're like doing is going, move those feet. It doesn't want to pivot. That's natural. She did a really good job with it. So it prepared the environment. So when you do practicing today and practicing hereafter, I want you to say everything. Because when you say it, you're reinforcing it. And you're going to say it for me in your lab practical. But it reinforces it for both of you. And it helps you make the process more concrete. Okay.
So when you stand, do you wait for a little bit?
I wait for a second for them to go. A lot of times we'll be like, hurry,
yeah.
You'll fall.
Okay.
Give them a minute just to see if they're going to lose their balance. Okay. If they have a history of hypotension, you want to certainly give them a few seconds more. But you want to see how the balance looks. Okay. With the squat pivot, not so much. You just want to get that done because the person's not really doing not in a position where they have a lot of control. It's harder to do this. I had a patient once who was like this, and she's like, let me go. Let me go. And I'm like, I'm not letting you go. And she's like, I can't do this. I'm like, you know it's more work to do this than to do this. To be able to hold yourself in that position, it takes quite a bit of energy. Like, we are not going to have a report today. We're not going to The next one is a stand-step pivot. This is for a person who can come into standing and can take at least 1 to 2 steps. So they're in a stage where they're starting to develop skill for walking. So keeping this in mind, I have to think about where I'm going to be placed because she needs to step. So So I can still position myself like I did with a stand pivot. Whereas if she's stepping and her knee starts to buckle on her weak side, I think if she has a weak side, I can block it, or I can grab. I'm on the outer side of the transfer away from where we're going so that I have a wider base of support. Gonna have her scoot to the edge, feet are flat. Let her know where we're going. All right, we're gonna go over here on the count of 3. You're gonna stand up, catch your breath, step, step. Feel your legs touch, reach back and have a seat. All right, are you ready? All right, on the count of 3. Oops. 1, 2, 3. Up we go. Beautiful. Doing good. Now, she's not buckling. She's looking pretty good. If she were, I could do this. I'm ready to have you start stepping. Ready? 1, 2. Good job. Can you feel your legs touch?
Yes.
Are you sure? Okay. Reach back. Have a seat. And I'm going to go down with you. And we've done our stand step pivot. Okay? Easy breezy, because she's perfect in every way. All right. Remember, there's going to be different levels of assistance and different abilities when it's related to the control they have in their lower extremity. Sometimes we will train our patients on a transfer board.